Hi, welcome to lovely Waterloo, Wisconsin, home of Trek Bicycle. My name is Eric. I'm going to be showing you around one of the most advanced bicycle development centers in the world today. We've been making bikes by hand here in Waterloo, Wisconsin since 1976. Several of the bikes that you see behind me are part of our museum displays that are on that people can see whenever they come in for a tour. Out of this facility, we've worked with everything from steel, aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber. Today, the facility is exclusively a carbon fiber development facility. Currently, we're in the creative design studio. Trek employs a number of different designers, people from graphic design artists for bikes, graphic artists for web design, as well as interactive applications, environmental designers, people that design retail spaces as well. Design is something that is at the core of Trek's values. It's a very much a lengthy process to create an entire line's color palette, but it's really nice to have a place that you can see what the entire brand is going to look like over a year. So we get a lot of our inspiration from Japan, Europe, and a lot of our travels. So the mountain bike guys are tasked with understanding what mountain bikers want out of their product and what colors they're loving. The road bike guys the same way, and so the road bike line can look very different than the mountain bike line in a color scheme. But they're really targeted at that customer. This is really the heart of mountain bike development for Trek Bicycle. This is the entrance to the core team of the mountain bike studio. Inside of these two walls and this balcony right here house a number of different people, industrial designers, engineers, aplenty actually. Mountain biking is something that Trek takes incredibly seriously as far as the development process goes. So we hire carbon fiber experts, designers, industrial designers, engineers in here, and we house them all, give them a collaborative space to create a cohesive line. These gentlemen and ladies work hand in hand with our suspension development center in Santa Clarita, California as well. So the next place on our tour I'm going to show you is the Wellness Center. There's not going to be a lot of people in there today. It's a gorgeous day outside. A lot of people are going to be riding their bikes. But when it's not, this place is packed. Trek is a company that really cares about the fitness level of its employees and gives us the space and opportunities to keep fit. Trek is a very interesting company in that we don't have set office hours here at the headquarters. It's the office is open on the weekends, people work at night. So if you see people working out in here, it's not necessarily over their lunch break all the time. It's just a lot of the time when you can fit it in. So this is our internal fit studio. This is where a lot of Trek's precision fit techniques are perfected. Trek Precision Fit is Trek's philosophy on how a rider fits to a bike. So what you'll see is we use a lot of camera work. It's a very computerized method of making sure that all of our employees and staff are riding the right size bike with the right size stem at the right saddle height. A lot of systems use numbers, lasers, and things like that. This is more of a holistic whole body method. So this is one of the starting points on the carbon fiber development process. This is the validation lab. So I'm going to kick you guys over to Jim Colgrove. He is Trek's expert in carbon fiber development and has been with the company since 1991. Yep.
So in the validation lab here, what we do is we validate the processes that we are going to use for production, okay? So we prove this out and make sure that everything is correct before we move it up into our production facility. In here, our engineers can work directly with some of our best technicians to actually work through that process that we will then use for production. What I'll do is I'll kind of walk you through the whole validation process, starting with incoming material and kind of through every step up to molding. Carbon fiber that we use is pre-preg or pre-impregnated carbon fiber. Okay, it has carbon fibers in it, and then it also has epoxy resin in it also. And this is the material form that we use. It comes in rolls, and there are many different types of carbon fiber. So carbon fiber is actually a plastic fiber. It has very fine filaments or ends within it, and The plastic fiber is precision burned or pyrolyzed to change the plastic fiber into a carbonized fiber or carbon fiber. Carbon fiber, you may have heard the term 12K or 6K or 3K. That's the number of little filaments in the ends of each one of these little toes. And you can see there's a toe here. It's about 1/4 of an inch wide. It's about the sheet of paper thickness, so about 5/1000ths of an inch thick. And there are 12,000 little fiber ends in that bundle or toe. Those toe are laid side by side next to each other on a machine. The machine spreads these out and then impregnates them with epoxy resin. That's how we get pre-preg or pre-impregnated carbon fiber, which is the material that we use. Unidirectional means that the fiber all runs in one direction. Okay, so all the fiber ends are running in the one direction. We also use cloth, and this is what people typically think of as carbon fiber. Basically, if you look at this, we also have toes in this. We have small little strands that are interwoven just like your shirt or pants or any other material. And so we have strength actually running in two directions. We use both materials where appropriate in any and all of our frames. So what we have is a CNC cutting table. It is very much like a CNC milling machine, only it only acts in two directions. What it has is it has a small carbide knife that will plunge down into the material, and then we can program it to chase around a given shape. So what we have then is we have a finished cut part that is the exact outline. This part will fit down into the tool in an exact location within the mold. We have, if you look up here, you can see a Madone that has 180 different preformed pieces like the one I just cut out for you, just to make one bicycle, to make one frame size. What we did was we took the material, we plied it up in different ply stacks or orientations. That was put down onto the CNC cutting table, and then we cut the preform shape. The preforms will then go down into the mold in very specific locations. So what we have is this is actually our new Session downhill frame. This is a seat lug for that frame, and our technician Donna is actually going to lay one up for you. You can see the range of preforms that go into this part back behind us here. Right, so what she does is, you can see the preforms over here to the side. The mold is just slightly warm, and that will warm up the preforms so that they become more supple. Okay, this allows her to be able to push the preform down into the mold. And we have a specific sequence that the preforms go into the mold. So what she's doing is she's following our layup procedure or our sequence. So I talked earlier about that this was our validation lab, okay? What we do here is we validate the process that we are going to use in our production of the parts, okay? So what you are seeing here in validation is exactly the same process that we will use in production to make the finished parts. It's in the press, we can pressurize internally. That pushes the carbon fiber out against the female mold that you see here, and will make the finished part. So once we've pulled it out of the press, we open it up. And we have a finished lug.
So that's the paint shop here in Waterloo at Trek Bicycle, where we do both. We do select paint jobs, custom fast or hand painted. Whatever you want. You order it, we'll paint it for you. All right, so this is our decal and masking room. We also, frames first go into paint here. So a frame is loaded on this pallet. This fixture holds the bike in the correct position because the robot is programmed to go to certain positions. It's not a vision system, it's a 6-axis robot. And so the bottom of the the fixture will be programmed, and then it'll go in. Here's a P1 mountain bike. We just painted this morning. This is going to be liquid red with white logo. So it was white, masked, silver, and it's going to get its candy top coat on next. It's a Superfly hardtail. So this paint is mixed as it's used. This equipment up here, the stainless steel lines, we're pumping it from another room, and then it mixes it as used. So there's no waste. We don't mix up a gallon, then hope you use some and throw the rest away. So the only paint or solvent that is wasted, you'll see when it flushes, it'll go into this bucket. It's flushing paint in that's drawn into another drum, and then we take that and we put it through our still, and we reclaim all the solvent. And so all we ever throw away is little bits of plastic waste. All right, so this is our pump room where we're circulating all the paint. It's under pressure, it has filters, back pressure regulators. We can adjust the viscosity, make sure it's correct. And all the high use colors are circulated through here, including the hardeners circulated out there. It's all sealed, no waste. And the small colors, we use those little pots, we'll flush in. That's how we get the 50 colors for P1. So far, I've talked a lot about machines and consistency and conveyors. And we do that for our higher volume stuff, the bike in the box, the pre-painted. But we still do a lot of stuff by hand here. This is P1 signature. This is when we don't paint it until you order it. So these are all the custom hand-painted ones. Some of these are like airbrush. This is literally airbrush by hand. It takes 8 hours to paint that. It takes a long time to learn how to do that. Only certain painters are trained to do that. But a lot of P1 is just people pick some sort of color combination. I want yellow, green, and purple because that's what I want. Well, we can do that in here. It's much more feasible to do it one thing at a time. So all those bikes on those racks are orders that they're painting. She's decaling. So we have a duplicate of this booth on the other side of this. So we can have 8 painters per shift. So we currently have 2 shifts, 8 painters each, and we still have some more other booths. P1 is very popular. We're ramping up as fast as we can. Get as many done, keep the quality the same. Some of these are imported frames. Some of these are carbon frames made in Asia. Some of these are carbon frames made here. It all depends on how much you're willing to pay. So here's where frames are getting ready to go into P1 paint. They have packets that are making sure they have the right fork with them, they have the right masking, the right decals. They're assigned to a painter, then they get started. And then they go through the paint process, and here is the very end. We're finishing them. So we check them over, we inspect them, 100% buff. We'll install some hardware, and then they get ready to go to whitewater to be assembled. It's going to Japan. This is where we're cutting our own masking. This is our Zun plotter. We use it to die cut all our masking, including the transfer tape shape. So this is cutting the masking for a Madone, 6 series Madone. So all these files are made by our creative department, and then we take them off the drive. We can cut them here. So we only have to cut like a day ahead. We're not locked into big batches. We can change everything. We can cut stuff for team bikes, custom cut masking for someone's name. When you get your personalization on your bike, we paint it on. That's cut here. It's cut with this plotter.
Hi, I'm Scott Daubert. I work for Trek Bicycles, and you're in the race shop. So we have a lot of projects that are in the works right now. These 2 bikes are going to our enduro riders, Justin Leov and Tracy Mosley. We normally don't do complete assemblies here, but in this case we're putting things together to ship out the door to those guys. So Ray, who's our enduro liaison, is putting the final touches on these bikes, and then they'll ship out to those athletes so that they can compete on them at all the enduro races. The enduro program is one of the mountain bike teams that we support, or one of the mountain bike programs we support. We also do the Trek Factory Racing team. All of their equipment comes through this shop, and then we also do Trek World Racing through this shop. Another critical part of this department is completing the feedback loop. We've got an awful lot of talented and experienced riders out there that are riding new pieces of our equipment, or prototypes, or test bikes, or they've come from another team that they rode something different. And they're bringing that information back to Trek, and we're filtering it here in this department, and then passing the important parts of those conversations to engineering, or to product, or to other parts of the company, so that we can make a better product. And then anything that our engineering group's coming up with, any innovations that they might have, they're passing it to the race shop, and then we find an athlete that can use that stuff. So we're constantly kind of passing information back and forth through this department to make equipment better, to make bikes better. All right, so that's it from the race shop. Thanks for coming to see us, and I hope you have a good time here at Trek.
So this is the commuter room. This is where employees have additional storage space for bikes if they decide to ride to work. As you can see, this is also storage space for our employees' mountain bikes. A lot of our employees like to keep their bikes with them all day long at their desks, but this definitely offers them a little bit of overflow storage.
I'm Jay Trani, supervisor of the mold shop, and we're going through what we currently do down at the mold shop at the Red Barn. The mold shop, what we do is we take the CAD data, which the CAD cave creates, and we take that data and create it into the aluminum mold that is needed to produce the part up in molding.
I'm John Raleigh, the mountain bike product manager, and we have here kind of the history of some of the mountain bikes through the past with Trek. And starting on the far left is actually a Trek fuel frame that George Bush, the president, a few years back rode for 8 years while he was in office. That's the actual bike itself, the first one. He had several. That was the first bike that we shipped to him. It's got the presidential insignia and all the colors that match that. The next frame over is the first single speed we ever did that Travis Brown won the single speed world championships on. So he had a custom painted pink. That was a custom bike that we did, and Travis was the first one to win the single speed worlds with it, and then he went on to win the second year. First year he got a tattoo, second year he got a nice iron to the arm. The third bike over is our first bike called the DH1. It was our first downhill bike that was raced by Scott Sharples, and he actually won a couple of races with that particular bike, and that was based off of our single pivot design that we were doing at that time. And we actually even did what is shown there, which is we cut away the down tube on the frame to make it lighter so that we could make the bike a little bit lighter even though it still remained pretty heavy. The next bike over is the first rendition of the Session, and that went on to have a great legacy and continues today. That was the very first test mule that we ever did with the Session. That's a history of kind of some of the standout bikes we've had here. Most of them have been successful. The ones that hadn't been successful are hidden in a closet. We don't show anybody.
I'm standing in front of the original headquarters for Trek Bicycle. In 1976, this is where the first Trek frames were welded together. It was our manufacturing facility all the way up until 1980 when we moved into a facility that you just saw today. I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by Waterloo, Wisconsin and spending the day with us, and we'll see you on the trail.